All right. Well, we are live. Let me do this. We are live. It's Independence Day as we're recording this. Join or die. Texas and Oklahoma joined the SEC, killed the Big 12 essentially, and college football. What we knew. Um, I, I've been warning SEC fans and mainly Georgia fans that would listen to me about Texas. And there's twofold that we can get into here. The first is the Texas fans. Um, they're arrogant and they have the trophy case of like Auburn, maybe. They have a little bit better, but that's kind of where they are at. And honestly, in the past decade, Auburn's been a better football program than Texas has. But they think that they move the mountains and air and God made Texas football for Texas football. Um, so I've been trying to warn everybody. They're arrogant and it's really hard. I don't know if they know what's coming down the track. They really don't know. So go ahead and give us your thoughts on.
No, I know. For several years, way before Texas, it actually dates back to whenever their cow almost gutted poor Uga, about how bad you hated Texas. I never really, honestly, to go to your other point, they haven't been that relevant until very recently under Sarkeesian, and so I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to them. They were sort of like gnats, whatever, and I never considered it real football because they didn't play defense out there, and so I never paid much attention to them. But now they're coming into the SEC conference. I am beginning to understand your side of the equation, which is they are extremely arrogant, and seem like they think they've really accomplished a lot when they haven't recently. And I've always said, to me, the Tennessee fan base is probably one of the most ignorant and probably one of the most delusional fan bases in SEC. But I don't know about ignorant yet, as far as Texas, but arrogant and delusional about where their program really is. And now I'm not saying that it can't get there. I'm just saying it hasn't gotten there. They just don't recruit, or haven't historically until Sarkeesian started turning it around. And maybe it hasn't been a lack of talent. I don't really know what the problem is. But if you're in the state of Texas, you would think you would be loaded up with talent. But I know LSU comes in there and plucks a lot of talent. Texas A&M.
Right.
Speaking of which goes to where another point. Did you hear Texas A&M? They played Tennessee, right? Are they getting the College World Series? Right? I didn't watch it that closely.
Oh, they played. Not Florida. Ellis. No, yeah, Tennessee.
Okay. Well, did you hear what happened? Texas just came and poached him, and the
Oh yeah,
rumors were
okay.
out before they even played the game. And
Right.
that's sort of what Texas sort of, to me, treats Texas A&M like a little brother. Like, it's cute. You went into the SEC conference, but now, we're here and we're just going to take whatever the hell we want.
Right.
And so I can understand why Texas A&M, Arkansas, all these people hate Texas, because I'm starting to get that way. And then, of course, you've got the comment by their mullet wearing quarterback, Ewers, who said every team's most important game is Texas. Hey, dude, it ain't about you, Texas, right? Y'all go through the meat grinder week after week, playing the level of competition that is in the SEC, and come see and talk to us after the first year. I think there's going to your point, I think they're going to have some growing pains. I believe they're talented. I believe they're good, but they have yet to go through the entire gauntlet of the SEC. So that's my opinion.
Well, yeah, and you're not the biggest game at all. It might feel like a big game, but you're not close to being the biggest game. I mean, Georgia, you got for Georgia fans, we got Alabama's probably one of the biggest games this year. Obviously, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, Tech. Even you can make an argument for Clemson. There are way more games that I just mentioned before I even mentioned Texas.
Right.
It's cool that it's going to feel like a big game for Texas and whoever they play against, because it's Texas, it's novel, it's new, but it's not the biggest game for a lot of these schools. So yeah, it's just arrogant, but that just tells you what they think and what they think they are, and they're going to have an adjustment period. And here's the other thing: speaking of the schedule, they're going to have to navigate. It's not the games against Oklahoma. It's not the games against Georgia or Alabama or Tennessee, whoever they play.
Yeah, no, I
The
know.
little games, it's the Vanderbilt going
Yeah,
in at 11 a.m.
yeah,
with nobody in. I know probably it'll be all Texas fans, but sleepy crowd. That's a hard thing to go through. Mississippi State.
yes.
Mississippi State's a hard place to play. You don't know about it until
Missouri.
Missouri. And
But I think they've got a rival. Missouri and Texas don't like each other from way back, right? So that
Right.
might be a little bit different. But yeah, I guarantee you, I will put Missouri against Texas. Especially, I don't know, are they playing this year?
I don't think they are.
That's too bad because yeah, put that at a noon kick and go play Missouri.
Yeah. Those sleepy afternoon games where it's 11 a.m. kickoff locally, those are the hard, and then, hey, you got to play at night in Mississippi State. That, I mean, it's not like Death Valley, but it's very unique in its own way where it's a challenging place to play. So the arrogance is really bad. My hatred started really like in 2008, 2007 with Texas, and that's back whenever they were on that run there after Vince Young. They played at Alabama in the national championship, and then they fell off, and then it kind of just dissipated because I didn't have Texas fans around me anymore. And then 2019, 2020, I did, and all I heard about was how great Texas was for beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl when all of Georgia's defensive players that started opted out. A lot of the offensive guys opted out. That game is the culture that you have now at Georgia. That was a turning point.
Yes, it was.
Pretty smart. And how to manage bowl games, how to manage players in the postseason, because Georgia had their hopes to get into the playoffs, even after they lost to Alabama, which they shouldn't have lost that game. And they celebrated, and they said, and Sam Ellinger, the famous "We're back" thing, just beating in a meaningless bowl game doesn't mean that you're the top dog anymore, or that you're back on the national stage. And they lost to Washington in the playoff, not a very good Washington team, a team I think that probably if Georgia played them would have beat them. Alabama probably would have beaten them. So I don't think they're as good as everyone thinks they are. I think they got a lot of hype.
Didn't they lose a couple of really good guys off the defensive line? I don't know about.
Yeah, they lost a bunch of guys on the defense. So, they're not probably going to be as good as they were last year, and the hype I think is kind of I don't really get it, but they'll be ranked in the top 10.
I bet they're above that, dude. They're probably in the top. They're inside the top 10. They're number 6, 7. I don't know where they're ranked, but
they're probably top 5.
So I will tell you, I'm looking at their schedule right now, and I know this is not a Texas show, and I don't want to turn it into that. But the SEC kind of did them some favors, man.
Oh yeah, with the schedule,
with the schedule, they play at Michigan early in the season. That could be somewhat interesting. Then they got a couple of fluff games, and then Mississippi State actually goes to Texas.
Yeah.
Then you got the Red River rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma. Then coming right at, I don't know if that's
It's a bye.
No, it's not either. October the 12th is Texas, Oklahoma. October the 19th. So just 7 days later, they play Georgia. So they come out of now that's a gauntlet. That's not going to be easy, right?
Yeah.
And then they go, Florida comes to them. They go to Arkansas, and then they go to, Kentucky comes to them. Yeah, and then A&M. That's a pretty, as far as SEC schedule goes.
That's a navigatable. Navigable.
Navigable. Yeah.
Yeah. What you said.
But anyway, yeah, that schedule is not as difficult as it could be. Georgia's schedule obviously is friggin' brutal, but at least they don't get a bye between the week they play Oklahoma and us. So
Yeah, that I thought there was a bye, but I guess there's a bye before the Oklahoma game.
yes, there is. Yeah, there's after Mississippi State, it looks like they got a bye, and then they go into Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough little gauntlet there. And you know who's really flying under the radar here is Oklahoma. Everyone's kind of put their arms around Oklahoma and go, come on in. So, and I think Oklahoma will probably be better than they were last year. I would assume that. But their schedule, the back end of their schedule, I saw it last night, is brutal. They got
I haven't seen the Oklahoma schedule. I'll pull that up while you're talking. Sorry.
yeah, they got Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU. I don't know who else. They might have A&M. That's a brutal schedule. Alabama. It's a brutal schedule at the back end of it. Oh, they got Missouri too.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
I think that's a rivalry, or again, right?
Yeah, that is a big rivalry. Yeah. So that's a brutal back end, and I think honestly, if we're sitting here, I know it's July 4th.
Oh, they got Tulane too, which I don't know. Does Tulane still have their coach that was really good that everybody was after?
I think so.
So Tulane, that's no joke. Like you said, they got Tennessee, has to go to Oklahoma. They got Auburn at Auburn.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the SEC. I don't know what time that is. Let's see. It's to be determined. So whatever. That Auburn, that people underestimate the effects of Jordan Hare.
Yeah.
Jordan Hare. Play Ole Miss, play South Carolina, Maine, for God's sake. That's a get well game or whatever. At Missouri, Alabama, and they end up with LSU. Yeah. Welcome to the SEC. That's not their schedule's harder than Texas.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than Texas's. So, and they're kind of flying under the radar. But I know we're sitting here as July 4th. I'll go ahead and make a prediction. Texas will not be in the SEC championship, nor will Oklahoma. I know a lot of people are saying, well, what team is going to be in that move conferences will be in the conference championship game? A lot of people pointing to Texas. I think it's a lazy pick. It's not going to be them. I'll tell you who's going to end up being in the SEC championship, who was in the Big 12 previously. It's going to be Missouri. Missouri's schedule is super easy. They're really good. They're trending upwards. They're a tough team to play. I think Missouri's going to be pretty good. And, I was looking at, because I don't know why I went through this rabbit hole, but I looked at all the other SEC schools' schedules. Missouri's is really easy. Georgia's pretty hard. But here's the thing. If Georgia's 11-0, 10-1, don't you think with the playoffs being 12 games, SEC championship doesn't matter, do you think they rest guys? I was thinking
I wouldn't be. I don't know, though. Kirby probably has a different mentality. I think it also depends on how banged up they are. But guys that could probably go, you know what I mean? But another week of rest or whatever would do them some good. Yeah, I think Kirby, especially if it looks like we're not going to be in the SEC championship, which, believe it or not, I hate to say this, it's almost an opposite of, but I'm okay with that, honestly, given the schedule that we're and then I don't think there's, like you said, there's not any value in you have to play an extra game.
Well, right? The value is a first round bye, but again, what does that really give you?
Yeah. I'm good with. I mean, we'll see how this. All this is new, but after last year and getting burnt for playing in that game, that kind of taught me a lesson, especially when it expands. So I think Kirby, it'll be a fill it out period, but I think strategically, one of the things you can bet on, once Kirby has a little bit of experience in this shit under his belt, he'll start, load management, whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that's where we're heading to, and I don't like it at all. But like now, we're gonna have to adjust. The days of a team going 12-0 and then winning their conference championship, those days are over. They're soon to be over.
Yeah, I agree.
A really good team is going to be a 10-2 team, especially with these super conferences. So, and 9-3 is going to be like a 11-1.
Right.
So we're going to have to shift our view. I don't know how I'm going to react to that because whenever Georgia loses a game, I don't know how the hell I'm going to feel about it.
I will tell you, of course, you can't do anything to stop it, right? But I think all fans would be much better served by totally disregarding the preseason polls and any poll prior to Thanksgiving. I mean, not Thanksgiving, Halloween. Yeah, I've always said most of these preseason polls are based on the school's kind of like reputation, what they did last year, which is no bearing, especially in the constantly dynamic situation with transfer portal and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't think last year is not a good indication what's going to happen in the future year. No. So to me, we've got to quit worrying about polls up until end of October. You'll know at the end of October kind of who the players are. And as long as you're in the top 12, who gives a shit? That's what I would say.
Well, here's the thing that we're all going to
field might play a factor.
Huh?
Home field, the fact that these playoff games are going to be played, on campus, I think is a great idea. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it will be, especially down here. I would hate the thing that's going to suck though is a Southeastern team going up to the Big Ten, like a Michigan or Ohio State, and playing up in the cold.
So I don't know. I think that'd be kind of neat. Let's see what happens. If we're gonna talk the talk, we go fucking play you there. You come down here. I don't give a shit. Let's just go play.
Well, yeah, I guess. But I had a point. Now it's escaping me. But the thing that we're gonna have to watch. This is my point. The thing that we're going to have to watch with the playoff and the 12 team, it's really an 11-team playoff because the G5 hasn't. So whoever's the highest rated G5 conference champion gets in, which is a stupid, dumb, idiotic.
What do you think the reason behind that? Throwing a bone to almost like the Cinderella team that
and then ESPN can say, "Oh, Liberty." Just like they did with TCU before the national championship. People on that panel on College Game Day and the whole ESPN apparatus kept telling us how good TCU was and that TCU is going to shock Georgia. I know I was wrong about the Ohio State one, but I didn't see it. There was no way they were going to compete. I saw how small they were. It's just they do it. And here's the G5 would be better off having their own playoff system and having their own champion. It would be, and honestly, it'd be more interesting to me.
They're not going to do that though because of the revenue. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. But what's going to end up happening though? That's going to kill off all of these smaller programs.
But here's the thing that I would say, and it goes back talking about like the G5 or whatever, and it goes back to our conversation from last week. Whenever you were telling me, "Oh, Ohio State's, they're soft, this, that, and the other,"
they are.
I was hoping you were right, but I wasn't buying it as hard as you were because it goes back to the blue chip shit, right? Like we were talking about last week.
Right.
For the number of 4 and 5 stars on your roster. Ohio State's loaded. I think they're number 1, right? But then you look at a TCU, and it was well under. I think it was under 50% for sure.
Right.
I don't know where it was. So you use that same logic. No one has won a national championship. Below 60% or 50?
Below 70.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, these G5 teams are not going to have any blue chip, or they're not going to have the percentage. They're at a disadvantage. I don't give a shit. It's not the coaching. It's the Jimmy and Joe's, right? It's not the X's and O's. It's the Jimmy's and Joe's. There's a lot to be said for that. And these G5 schools, I think they're going to realize in football, ridiculous notion.
It's ridiculous.
Basketball, I got to get it.
Yeah, basketball, it makes more sense. So I wanted to add this because I forgot about it whenever we were talking about the blue chip rating. But if you go and look at Ohio State's 4 and 5 stars, look where they're. I don't even know how to word this. Where they're concentrated at, what positions they're concentrated at. It's not the offense and defensive line.
Skill positions, right?
Skills positions. It's corners, safeties, wideouts, running backs, quarterbacks. So when you want to look at the difference between why Ohio State is not favored against Georgia if they ever play come January, that's going to be the difference. Because the offensive defensive lines where most of the 4 and 5 stars are at for Georgia.
Well, go something kind of bookends that same thought or echoes it. Football is a line of scrimmage game, man. And whoever is still today, if whoever controls the line of scrimmage is going to win a football game more times than not. And that's the reason you look at the SEC. That's the reason they've won so many national championships. If you got 6'5", 270-pound defensive ends that can move, and same thing with defensive tackles and dominate, Jalen Carter. I don't give a shit how good your wideout. If your quarterback's on his ass and the run game is completely stopped, okay. You can have your 4 and 5 star and your 4 and 5 star quarterback. Now, I would say you need especially now, it's such a quarterback dominant, game that you've got to have a competent, if not a really good quarterback to have a chance. One of the reasons I think Georgia has a really good chance. I'll take Carson back over yours any day of the week.
I think anyone with a brain would say that Carson Beck, right as of right now, things could change. Is probably going to end up being the first pick of the draft.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't
be surprised either.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see. By the way, I know you didn't see it, but EA in their deep dive of dynasty mode on the new college football game, they had Georgia and Michigan playing in the national championship. Carson Beck threw a pick, and Georgia lost. It was crushing to watch.
See, that's the shit right there. Michigan really, after getting they've got a new, they base it on what happened last year. They don't have any bearing. They got a new coach. The quarterback's gone. I don't know what they have. I know enough to, I would take Ohio State over Michigan any day of the week this coming year as far as winning the Big Ten, right? But that's another thing we haven't really talked about, and I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but the Big Ten is going to be interesting. You got Oregon, right? You got
Washington.
USC, right?
Yeah.
These teams like Michigan and Ohio State that are going to have to, and Penn State, vice versa, they're going to have to be going all the way across country. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And I don't think a lot of people – I think it's known, but I don't think it's talked enough about that this travel back and forth for the Big Ten is ridiculous. So, all right, well, I think that's where we'll finish it. I will definitely individually, because I know you really want to talk about the new EA college football video game. Georgia, by the way, is going to be the number 1 team. They have the best offense and the second best defense. It's going to be almost hard to beat Georgia in the game, which is great for me. But whenever it comes out, I'll do a review and I'll talk about it. We'll see how that goes, how many people watch that. I don't know. Should be interesting. The next thing is keep an eye out. Florida State and Clemson both quietly. Josh Pate talked about it a little bit, so it's not that quiet. They're leaving the ACC. Is essentially what's going to happen. I would guess in the next, because this has usually been the moving when these things are announced. I wouldn't be shocked in the next couple of weeks because we also have SEC Media Days in 2 weeks as well. Or a week from now, I guess, when you're watching this. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an announcement that they've moved.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know to what conference though.
Wow. By SEC media days.
I would say in that time frame in the next 2 weeks, yeah.
Well, I know we're wrapping up here, but what is the what's the when does the contract end? In other words, they'd have to buy outright out of the ACC, or
Well, so the Florida State is suing the ACC because of that contract. They're suing ESPN and the ACC and saying basically that they got screwed over by it and that the landscape has rapidly changed and ESPN has locked themselves and the universities into this contract. I think it ends in 2030. So if
it's a long way off, dude.
it's a long way off, but I think that contract's going. I think what's going to end up, they're going to sue or get a legal decision saying that this doesn't, this can't be. I guess it can be broken. That's the thought. So yeah, and here's the thing: they're talking about Florida State and Clemson going to the Big Ten, which makes zero sense to me. Academically, I don't think Florida State's a Big Ten school.
Don't you think this is going to end up being like you're probably not going to have conferences anymore eventually, unless something
you have the AFC, NFC type.
That's exactly. That's all exact. It's going to have two major conferences, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have the scraps and the leftovers with the Big Ten and the ACC. I don't know how that's going to work either.
Teams like Miami, Tech.
Yeah, well, like what happens with Tech? What happens to Miami? What happens to Oklahoma State? What happens to Pitt? I mean, there's a bunch of schools that are kind of left, and I don't know where they would fit.
I don't either.
I mean, Tech should be in the SEC. Clemson should be in the SEC. Florida State
should be in the SEC.
Florida State should be in the SEC. They balked at the worst time. They've had multiple chances to be in the SEC, and they continue to balk at it. So I don't know why now they're making the move. I guess because they're seeing all the money go away from them.
Right.
So, but I would keep an eye out. I've saw a few things where people that are high up in the know have been saying that is a possibility. So that's a whole college football view rather than just a Georgia view, but it has an impact to us. Also, I guess next week we'll kind of do a preview of SEC Media Days and talk about what to expect there. And then obviously once whenever Georgia and Kirby Smart show up at SEC Media Days, we'll do a full podcast on that. So like and subscribe. We've got a couple people subscribing, so hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you like the videos, subscribe, and you want to keep watching videos of us talk about nothing, hit it. Leave a comment. Follow us at Terminus Sports Terminus _sports ATL on Twitter and Instagram, and then follow us same tag Terminus _sports ATL on TikTok. We're big on TikTok. We're with the kids now. So follow us there. And you got any other thoughts before we go?
I don't.
You want to give a plug to Unishippers?
Yeah. If you're a small to medium-sized business and you're moving shipments with FedEx or UPS, FedEx and UPS are less than truckload freight, feel free to reach out to Unishippers Atlanta and ask for Marcus Gore.
All right, ask for Marcus, great presenting sponsor, Unishippers. We appreciate it. Remember, please subscribe. It'd be very nice. It makes my day a lot better whenever you subscribe. It makes me feel a little bit better about myself. All right, we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.